Alastair Campbell, former press secretary for the British Prime Minister Tony Blair, a writer, communicator and strategist, and now the author of podcast The Rest is Politics. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
And nice of you to have joined us. In today's world, I would say that all, in fact, is politics. There's hardly any line between what's political and what's not. Even the most intimate aspects of our life have become political in a way. And a new politics in a new world, isn't it?
I think it's always been that to some extent, but I think it's been accelerated by, I think Trump's presence has changed a lot. I think the anxieties that people have about the state of the world are very intense. So yeah, I mean, politics has always been part of everybody's life, even if they don't know.
How is it different now? You said that Trump's changed a lot. I understand the rhetoric that he's using changed a lot.
I don't think there's ever been any political figure who has ever been quite so dominant within the global political debate, ever.
As Donald Trump?
I don't think so, because there's more media now. I think in terms of volume, I don't think there's any doubt about that. He's, you know, every time you go into a hotel, and there he is on the television, anywhere in the world. And so, but I think the other thing he's done, he's created this strange world where sometimes you get the feeling that America's traditional friends are enemies and the enemies are friends. That's upended things. His style of communication is a complete change. His absolute unwillingness within a democracy to say things that aren't true, to attack judges, to attack his opponents.
It's aggressions, it's sort of political aggression.
I think it's more than that. I think it's upending things that we've taken for granted all our life. And I think that's what, and then if you think about, I just bumped into somebody who's here from Al Gore's Institute on Climate Change.
Yeah.
He's changed that debate. You know, we've gone backwards on climate change since Trump came back. So these are all, I think, and then if you think of here in Europe, the rise of right-wing populism is linked to that, but it's also having an impact on politics. And our podcast, we had 17.5 million downloads last month. Now, that may be because we're two very interesting, nice people who talk very eloquently about politics. I think it's actually because there is a real desire to try to understand what on earth is going on.
The world of chaos, basically.
In a world of chaos. How do you make sense of a world of chaos? Yeah.
Let's try to make sense of that. One of the most vivid debates in Britain, Brexit. It's been, 5 years now?
No, more than that. The referendum was 3,042 days ago.
What's the sentiment now? What's the feeling now about Brexit?
Well, you're speaking to somebody who's... I'll try to give you a balanced opinion, but I think Brexit was a total disaster. I think it's one of the most catastrophic acts of self-harm that any government has ever committed, that any population has ever committed. I would say there is now a considerable majority that thinks it was a mistake, but there is not a considerable majority that wants to revisit the argument yet. Maybe it will come.
But is it going to come?
Well, I hope so, but...
I remember when I was speaking to one of your ministers just a few months after Brexit, my first question then was, when are you going to reapply to join the European Union? I was faced with laughter, of course, then, but is it completely unrealistic?
I think as things stand, I mean, you'd have to have major political forces that were campaigning and fighting for that to happen. And at the moment, they're not. When Brexit happened, I was part of something called the People's Vote campaign to try to get another referendum on the actual deal. And we had over 1 million people out on the streets campaigning for it. I don't know where they've gone. The debate seems to have just settled for now. But it's interesting, we just interviewed your foreign minister, Sikorski, for the podcast. And he said if Britain ever did choose to reapply, he would absolutely guarantee that Poland would welcome us back. And I think other countries would too. But no, at the moment, I don't think it's yet a live debate. What is a live debate is the extent to which Brexit has damaged our economy, damaged our ability to do trade, and damaged our ability to travel freely. And people are pretty angry about it.
So where are those people that you mentioned? Did they lose faith in politics? Did they lose interest in politics altogether?
I think they're probably still there to be mobilised if there are forces that are willing to mobilise them. But it's unclear at the moment what the fight is. I think to go, even I as a passionate anti-Brexit person, I think to come out now and try to lead a campaign to get us back in, I'm not sure it would work. I think the timing has to be right, and right now is not the right time.
What needs to happen for this debate to realistically start the process of thinking about it or debating about it?
Look, it is starting to come back. So, for example, I've been criticising, I don't criticise the Labour government much, leave that to everybody else, but I have been critical of both the main parties not wanting to have an honest debate about the economic and social, political, cultural impact of Brexit. They've not wanted to do that. They're starting to do it.
Okay.
So we've had recently Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, being very, very clear that some of our current economic problems are driven by Brexit. They didn't say that for several years. So that's happening. The next thing that's happening, I was talking to my son the other day, who's just gone, he's in Portugal. He's the first member of my family who's had to go through this new getting through the borders checking system. He says it's crazy and it's going to annoy a lot of people. Small businesses are really angry about it. Lots of small businesses have stopped trading with Europe because
they're
of the...
not active. Is that what you have in mind also? Are they active? Are they active? In
No, they're not
advocating?
yet, but I think they will be. They'll get mobilised.
You wrote a book a couple of years ago, But What Can I Do? Title, instead of call to arms to get people more active in politics, to get engaged more in politics.
Yeah.
Any change over the last 2 years that you have noticed?
Yes, I would say there is. So, for example, I would argue that our younger generation in particular has become much more politicised over what's happening in the Middle East. I do a lot of, I wrote that book and then I did a version for children, teenage children and also primary school children. And I go into schools the whole time. And I think they are much more political than...
Yes, because I do have a feeling, maybe you disagree with that people on the populist side, anti-liberals, they really get involved. They are really motivated to get involved in politics. But the liberal side is much less and less motivated. Perhaps it's some kind of withdrawal from politics.
No, I think what's happened is at the moment, they just feel intellectually and psychologically on the back foot. They've got to get back on the front foot. Stop apologising. You know, we play too much to these arguments that are fed to us relentlessly by large parts of the media, by the populist politicians. We've got to fight back better. Look at the United States. The Democrats still haven't had a proper debate about why they lost.
Maybe the Democrats, maybe the Liberals don't have a good story to tell to the people. Just like the populists do, they do have a fabulous story.
Well, they have a simple story.
Very simple, very understandable.
Story.
Yes.
Right. What it doesn't do, what their story isn't, is honest about the state of the world, or honest about the trade-offs and the choices you have to make. Where you're absolutely right, the progressives have to have a better way of telling their story. How have we allowed ourselves to be on the back foot about climate? That's partly our fault. How
to do it? What should be the story? You used to be one of the best-known spin doctors. I know that then afterwards you've become a fierce critic of the spin, but perhaps we actually do need some kind of democratic, liberal, working spin.
Well, the reason I always thought the word spin meant nothing is because spin doctor just became a term of abuse. How I saw my job, and how I think anybody in political communication see their job, is your job is to help devise, execute and narrate strategy all the time. Now, in his own crazy, chaotic world, that is exactly what Donald Trump does. He devises, executes and narrates strategy all the time, literally all the time.
Right.
On the left of politics, we tend, and Tony Blair did it, that was our style. We had a strategy which was modernisation, we communicated it relentlessly, and policies fitted into a frame. Okay, that's what you have to do. And I think that too many people on the progressive side of politics have just lost confidence. And they feel that they have to sort of bow down to the populists and say, yeah, we share your concerns, you're absolutely right about this. And I say, no, we don't have the same values, they're different. Yes, if they've got something right, they bring forward, they analyse problems, often successfully, they have no solutions. Call them out, attack them, give them solutions.
Solutions is the next step. People probably don't pay much attention to solutions. They pay attention to the story in the first instance.
Storytelling is crucial. Storytelling is a massive part of government. It's a massive part of what you do.
Do we not have better stories than populists, the liberal part,
I don't know.
the liberal side?
I don't know. We should do. We should do. On climate, we've got a better story to tell. We're saving the planet. We're creating a better future.
Somehow it doesn't work. Somehow it doesn't. Sometimes it actually irritates the people.
Because the other side have been better organised and better funded, in not least by the fossil fuel lobby, in telling a better story, and creating a world where they don't care if it's true or not.
Do we have good enough leaders on the liberal side, on the liberal democratic side, or do we lack leaders that could be the counterparts for the very efficient populist leaders and autocrats?
I don't think you should overstate how good these guys are. So I don't think Donald Trump's first term was a disaster. Now, he won again, and that's quite an achievement. But let's not run away with the idea that he was a good president, or that his second term will prove to be any better for the world or for the United States. Likewise, I would argue that somebody like Wilders in Holland, in the Netherlands, I mean, the guy's got longevity, he's got endurance, he's got resilience. What has he actually achieved to make the world a better place? So I don't think we should run away with the idea. These guys are good at campaigning. That's what they're good at. Could we do with better leaders? For sure, but leaders emerge from people. You can only have the leaders that put their heads forward to be leaders, and then that we elect. And one of the problems with democracies now, particularly in the media age, the social media age and all that, is that as soon as they get to the top, people have this desire to bring them down. I think Macron was a terrific leader when he first came along. Look at where he is now.
Huh? I mean, you're saying in the past tense?
No, I say when he first became elected, I thought this guy is going to transform European politics. Hasn't happened. It's difficult to govern in the modern age. So we need, and that's why I actually do think we need to look to the next generation to develop a different style of leadership. Why are people so excited by this guy in New York, Mamdani? Because he's doing politics in a different way. He's saying things that are exciting enough people to make them think, this guy could be the mayor of New York. Now, I don't agree with everything he says, but I think he's a really impressive guy, and we've got to just find that new energy from places. And it's not my generation that's going to do it.
But you can also give a piece of advice, basically, on that.
Yeah.
Right, so the last question is, if you were to have a look at some source of hope, where would it be? For the future of Europe.
I'll tell you two leaders that do give me hope, that have recently been elected. Mark Carney in Canada. His party was written off. They were 20 plus points behind in the polls. He came in, he took them over, he projected himself in a certain way, he won. Albanese in Australia, he was written off. He found his mojo, he found a bit of energy, he had policy ideas that seemed to connect with the people, and he won. So you can look around.
Leaders.
So much of it is about the leader. So much of it is. And so, I'm just mentioned, I've known Radek Sikorski for quite a few years, and it was interesting because I said on the podcast, when I first met him, I found him, quite overbearing and really giving the sense that he had all the answers, and he was a commentator at the time. He was in outside politics. I've just sat down with him for an hour or so and talked to him. I thought, this guy's grown. He's an impressive politician. And I think we've got to get away from this idea that politicians are somehow all bad people. We need good politicians right now to take our countries and take our continent and take our values in the right direction.
Thank you very much for joining us on TVP World. Alastair Campbell, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.